So what you bring you here?
What brings me here is the Ulysses Shelter project, which is a project for the exchange and residencies of young poets from Greece, Croatia and Slovenia, and which was organized by a publishing house called Sandor from Croatia, funded in part also by the EU. And I'm a participant in this program of literary exchange.
Could you tell me why is important this project?
I think this project is important because it allows young authors, young poets, to see other countries, to experience communication with people who are native to those cities, those countries, and talk about exchange experiences, actually, about literature, about poetry, about general things which we have in common, and things which are different in each of those countries. And also, last but not least, it allows poets to have some free time to work, to write, and to come back home with perhaps inspiration and thoughts for other works.
In which events and activities you participate here in Larissa?
We had two main literary poetry events, actually. One was at the 5th high school in Larissa. It was organized with the children from the school. We had a reading, Thanos, Gogos and me. We read my poems and the translations of those poems in Greek. He also read his poetry, and we talked with the children about poetry. And it was actually a very nice experience because the students really participated. They asked questions, and I was surprised to see that they are so interested and they're not at all shy to ask and to. They were really actually, I think, impressed by the fact that some poets are not old and do not talk in complicated sentences which nobody can understand. The other event, literary event, was at the French Institute this Friday. It was, in my opinion, well attended, and also people were willing to ask questions, to ask about Croatia and the comparisons with Greece, and about my poetry, also relatively personal questions which I was glad to answer. And not just this, I was also taken to the Diachronic Museum. I had this honor to see the museum, which is very nicely arranged, and also to the museum, the mill here, and it was like a private tour through the cultural life of Larissa, which I really liked.
You just told us about your poetry. Could you tell me in a few words how could you describe your poetry?
It's pretty hard to describe because there's a relatively wide variety of subjects in it, but somehow it always comes to the intuitive concepts which I always feel are the subjects I like most and that somehow haunt me throughout my work. And this is the concepts of change, of the relationship between man and nature, the relationship between past, present and future also, and such basic themes which have always been very popular in poetry, but I try to approach them differently, like love or death, or the basic concepts of life. My first book was more, let's say, intimate, and in a way it was more about myself and perhaps my family and my origins, my childhood. And the other one is somewhat more abstract and somehow more about the society and even politics and war in a way, in a subtle way, which is not explicit, but it's still there.
Goran, was your first time here in Larissa?
Yes, first time in Larissa and first time in Greece also.
Tell me your impressions.
My impressions are actually very good, I have to say. The city of Larissa, of course, is not like a city full of tourist attractions like Athens, perhaps, but it still has a spirit which I really like. It has a feeling of a city which is enjoying a good time in its history. Culture seems to be growing, and somehow I like the way that people are able to enjoy life every day, not just, they enjoy the small things in life. This is my impression. And also I found, talking to the locals, that especially young people have quite a lot in common with the young people from Croatia. So this was also good to find.
Thanks a lot for this sort of discussion.
Thank you very much.